First of all, I've had more compliments today on my shirt. What do you like? How do you like my shirt? So, in that vein, how do you like them Hurricanes? And I don't mean the University of Miami's football team. This hurricane is one of three. There are two others right in line. And it didn't get here because of who knows what. We think we know why it's here. The fact is, to be a Democrat, a good Democrat, makes you a good environmentalist. And let's keep that in mind, how we live our daily lives. I want to introduce the queen of our club. If you have not met Suzanne, our club president, please do so now.
Good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Mantegi Sapotich, and I'm South County Democratic Club president. Welcome. We were looking forward to this barbecue and the wonderful guest speakers that we have lined up for you. And now I'd like to introduce to you guys my club officers. Kyle McElroy, our club vice president. John Fierro is the club secretary, and everything needs to be perfectly done. And Mr. Forrest Williams, our treasurer, the one that holds the money and let us run. And then we have other officers. We have Rebecca Armenders. We have Rebecca Shio as parliamentarian. Actually, Rebecca Armenders, she does our endorsement committee. And then we have Connie Rogers, she's a membership. And Mr. Walt Kleins, our previous president. Anyway, we truly appreciate you guys coming to this meeting, to this event, and we really, really appreciate if you guys go and buy wine, because all we need to support our local business. Yeah. And that's what it matters. Anyway, Kyle is going to have few words.
Thank you, and it's really great to see everybody here out to support the Democratic Party. First of all, we have representatives here from a number of different groups. It's also really exciting to see representatives from Indivisible here. I know we got people here from Swing Left. There are others as well. I don't want to leave anybody out, but this energy and this excitement to try and resist what we see happening both at a national level and in other places is really important. I think we've survived through as best as we can, through the first 7-8 months of the Trump administration. Now, quickly, we're going to be turning into another election season. I know many of us are perhaps fatigued of this constant election cycle, but 2018 is going to be really important. So all of this energy that we see, all of this excitement that we have, really the next step is going to be turning that into focusing on how we take back seats from Republicans in the 2018 election. Now, for many of us, we feel very confident that we live in solid blue areas. So let's not take for granted, though, that we have to hold all of those seats. So for all of us, you'll see the Democratic Party out at Taste of Morgan Hill, at
Mall Festival.
right there. So you'll see the Democratic Party out at the local club registering voters. That's so important that we register voters, and that those voters who register actually turn out and vote. It's not enough just to register, we've actually got to turn out those votes. So for all of you here, you're the ones who are motivated to come to a Democratic Party barbecue on a hot Sunday afternoon. Talk to your friends, make sure they're involved, make sure they understand the importance of turning out and voting. So if I leave you with anything, that's what I would say. Take this energy, take this excitement, make sure we're getting out people, get them to register, get them to vote, and that's how we resist the Trump administration. That's how we put more Democrats back into office around the state and around the country, and that's how we really have the opportunity to really put into place the things that we hold as important and protect the communities that we really want to protect. So just again, thank you for everybody for being here today. Hope you enjoy the barbecue. Buy a glass of wine. There's waters and drinks over there as well. So thank you again for being here.
How many of you have been to our barbecues in the past there in okay, so everybody seems to like this venue, and as a result, I've booked it already. So mark your calendars, the same Sunday next year, the 9th of September, 2018, and as was directly alluded to, next year is the year. This is probably the most important midterm election in this country's history. And it's going to take every individual, every effort to make the difference, because the difference has to be made. Not just in California. We're lucky. We're in a bubble. But the result has to be nationwide. My wife and I are from Eastern Europe, and our relatives, they don't, their comments aren't so much about the results of the election. What they do is they feel sorry for us. What are you thinking? And I said, it ain't us. We are doing the thinking. So the rest of the world doesn't look at us the same as they did before. So let's change that. Before I introduce our first speaker, who's Dave Jones, the current insurance commissioner, and who's running for Attorney General, I want to get everybody, the local people, a chance for their what they want to announce. And I'm going to start on this end because most of the people. Does anybody here have an announcement or someone would like to introduce anybody who is running for office or in public office? No, nobody over here. I'm just going to go down.
Susan.
Hello. That's on the other end. Come on out. We have a District 4 Supervisor to be, Susan Ellenberg. Welcome.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that I'll be able to share it. I want to just share a couple of quick things with you. Yes, I'm a candidate for County Supervisor District 4. I fully realize that most of y'all live down here and can't vote for me, but I equally realize that you have friends. So I want to just share three quick things that I'm doing right now that are positioning me to take this supervisor seat. I'm a school board member for San Jose Unified School District. And a school district, a large urban school district in so many ways, is really a microcosm of the county. Did you not hear the first part? Thank you. I will do it again. I want to share three things that are part of my identity right now. I am a school board member for San Jose Unified School District. And what I have seen sitting on the board is that in so many ways, a large urban school district is a microcosm of the county. We are serving kids, and education is clearly our primary objective, but we also have to deal with immigration issues, with hunger, with unstable housing, with insufficient medical care. All of these things are levers that I can't touch as a school board member. They are all at the county level, and I think that I can have much more impact on seeing more children thriving by stabilizing more families. I also serve as a commissioner on the Santa Clara County Commission on the Status of Women. And probably this past election has highlighted some of the gender inequity issues that have been present for a long time, but have really come to the light in a crucial way that makes it important not to elect more women simply for gender's sake, gender parity, but because we are bringing to the table different experiences, not necessarily the same lockstep political trajectory, but we're bringing life experiences. I worked as an attorney and as a social justice educator, and my entire approach is a collaborative and goal-driven philosophy. The third piece that I'll share with you is that I'm the Senior Director for Community Development at the Silicon Valley organization, which is the cleverly rebranded Chamber of Commerce. And my role there, I work for this SVO Foundation, and I'm the Senior Director for Community Development. And what that means is that I'm taking people from the business community and helping them become more civically engaged by raising their awareness of issues of social urgency, and then helping them figure out where they can plug it through service, through public policy, through philanthropy, through ethical spending, through applying for commissions themselves in order to work toward the greater good. So I love all of the pieces of work that I'm doing, and I think they all come together at a county level in a way that there's really tremendous opportunity for power and transformation in our community. I look forward to talking with all of you and enjoy the afternoon. Thanks so much.
I promised my friend Dave Jones I'd get him on by 1 o'clock. Dave, come on up. Tell everybody your story, and I asked him a question about, he's an insurance commissioner now running for Attorney General of California. That said, I've asked him about health insurance and how it affects, or how the commissioner affects health insurance. So, welcome, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you very much, Alex. And I'm going to put this sign up so that, if you forget my name while I'm talking, it's right here. Just in case, right? Me and my entourage. My name is Dave Jones, and I have the pleasure of serving as your insurance commissioner. My sign just fell. And I want to tell you that it's been a privilege to serve you in that capacity. Let me just ask a quick question here. How many people have life insurance, just out of curiosity? A couple people, right? Yeah, important product. Make sure that your spouse, your kids, can be taken care of in the event of your untimely demise. I'm going to tell you a little story, though, about the life insurance industry. So, the life insurance industry got the bright idea of renting from the Social Security Administration a database called the Death Master File. Yeah, they might have called it something else, but what it is it's a database the Social Security Administration keeps of everybody who passes away in the United States of America. And why do they do this? To make sure that if someone passes away, you're not paying them ongoing Social Security benefits. You imagine the ruckus the Republicans would make if that happened. So the life insurance industry got the bright idea of renting the Death Master File database from the Social Security Administration. That's okay. Public-private partnership, make a little money for the government. But then it gets interesting. The life insurance industry took the Death Master File and matched the names in it of everyone who passed away against the names of everyone they had sold an annuity to. Now, everyone here knows what an annuity is, right? Most simplest form is you give the insurance company a pile of money, and they promise to make payments to you over the rest of your life. And you're hoping you're going to live a long time, and they're hoping not so much, right? So why would they want to know if people passed away? So they could cut off the annuity payments. Now, there's nothing illegal about that. That's a perfectly appropriate and acceptable use of this database that the government has of everyone passing away. But now it gets really, really interesting. So here's the literally $15 billion question. Do you think the life insurance industry, which rented the Death Master File database from the Social Security Administration and used it to its economic advantage by making sure it would cut off annuity payments to people that passed away, do you think they used it to make sure that some of those people see whether they had life insurance policies from the life insurance company, so maybe they should pay that person's spouse or kids or grandkids? Since they knew, right, they got the database, they know when people are passing away. What do you think? No, not a company. So I've been leading a national investigation of the 40 largest life insurance companies in America. And we brought actions against all of them. And as a result of our work, we forced them to pay out $12 billion in benefits that they were otherwise sitting on. Now, it's a little complicated, kind of a long story, but it really matters who we elect to these offices, because you want people with experience and who have the know-how to make sure that the companies they're regulating are held accountable. And now I'm running for Attorney General, and I'm building on my experience since 1988 as a lawyer. I began my career as a legal aid lawyer, purposefully so, to represent low-income families with their legal names. And then I had a chance to spend 3 years working as Janet Reno's special assistant in an office directly adjacent to hers in Washington, D.C. I know how to run a Department of Justice, I know what works, and I know how to do it well. And what I learned from her is that law enforcement and justice is not just about investigations and prosecutions. It's a more holistic approach. It's looking at early childhood education and affordable housing and supports to make communities successful, and reentry and rehabilitation programs for people coming out of prisons and jails. I've had a chance to serve as a city council member, a state assembly member, and now as your insurance commissioner, where I lead a law enforcement organization currently. I have 400 sworn peace officers that work for me, and we investigate insurance crimes. I distribute about $60 million a year to the DAs to prosecute those crimes, and those are not victimless crimes. We're all the victims who pay. because we end up paying in the form of higher insurance rates when the insurance company is ripped off. We pay in higher goods and services, and sometimes we pay in public corruption. And I'll just tell one little story to illustrate that. This is involving a hospital CEO, the owner of a hospital down in Long Beach, who got the bright idea to set up a shell company outside the hospital. And the shell company went and bought cut-rate, cheap spinal implant hardware, and then marked up the price of it and sold it to his hospital. And then he did surgeries at his hospital on the backs of injured workers. And he marked up the price of the surgeries and the hardware and passed all that cost on to the workers' compensation insurers. Guess who pays for that? We do. We do, in the form of higher premium, higher goods and services. So, as if that wasn't bad enough, he's making $40,000 or $50,000 of markup on each of these surgeries. He decides to make it a volume business. How does he do that? He starts bribing doctors and chiropractors to send in patients. Cash in an envelope. That's a federal and state crime. Medical providers are supposed to make medical referrals based on your medical need, not cash in an envelope. We get wind of it, we open an investigation, we put our detectives into the hospital, into the doctor's office, chiropractor's offices, $500 million of workers' compensation insurance fraud. $500 million of workers' compensation insurance fraud. Biggest case we ever had. And if that wasn't bad enough, we discover that the hospital CEO is bribing a sitting state senator who chairs the Senate Insurance Committee, a member of my party, a Democratic Party leader, and that individual is taking bribes to prevent the passage of legislation that would create a price cap on these surgeries and kill the golden goose that's laying the golden egg. The detectives come to me, ask me what they should do, and I said, you will complete this investigation, we'll follow this evidence wherever it goes, and that's what we did. Now, the Attorney General wasn't doing public corruption cases, so we went to the U.S. Attorney. I'm not a shy guy. I know how to make sure that people are held accountable. And the U.S. Attorney was very eager to take that case. And we worked with them to successfully prosecute the hospital CEO, the CFO, the doctors, the chiropractors, the state senator, all of whom are in federal prison now because of their corruption. And that was your Department of Insurance. That was your Department of Insurance. So, I know how to lead. I know how to lead a law enforcement organization, how to get the job done. A couple things that are really important to me, though. We've been engaged in a 50-year experiment in this country with the mass incarceration, largely of people of color, through something called the war on drugs. And it hasn't gone very well. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I would commend your attention to the seminal work by Michelle Alexander called The New Jim Crow. And basically what this book provides in compelling and infinite detail is the following thesis. The old Jim Crow was systemized discrimination that kept people of color and women down. The civil rights movement ended that, at least in law, though it continues to pervade our system as we see to this day. The new Jim Crow is the criminal justice system, where through the war on drugs we swept up mass numbers of people of color largely, put them in our prisons and jails for long periods of time, made them better criminals, put a felony stamp on them, and then sent them back out into the community, expect that somehow they would succeed. That's the new Jim Crow. Just like the old Jim Crow, people can't possibly succeed with that sort of felony brand on them. So thankfully, through the leadership of Democrats like those of you here, we have changed 3 strikes. We've passed legislation called prison realignment. We've passed Prop 47 to reclassify certain felonies as misdemeanors, non-serious, non-violent crimes. And we just passed Prop 58 to allow prisons, parole boards, and judges to decide when a prisoner has actually reformed themselves, give them a chance to get out a little bit earlier, and give them an incentive to reform themselves. So I support all of those things. I thought they're critically important, and many of you here have supported them as well. But here's the catch. We're pushing about 40,000 people out of our state prison and our jail system. And they are not going to succeed unless we make sure we have rehabilitation and reentry programs for them. Mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment, GED, education, job training, a job and affordable housing. They will not succeed without that. And that's what I'm going to focus on as your Attorney General. No one else is focusing on it, and I think it's really a responsibility of the Attorney General to focus on it, and I'm going to make that my signature criminal justice issue. Now, I can't just wave a wand and make those programs happen, but many of you here know where those programs are. We can identify programs that work, figure out how to take them to scale, find the funding, both in the public sector and the private sector and the foundation world, and really focus on this, because we're going to have one chance at this. If this doesn't work, and these individuals reoffend, the public is going to be outraged, and all these reforms that we've worked on for a decade are going to be abolished, and we're going to start building prisons again instead of schools. So that's what I'm going to focus on. A couple of contrasts between me and my opponent, some things that might be important for you to know. I've taken the pledge not to take any money from oil, gas, or coal industry. I believe climate change is real. We need to do something about it. My opponent declines to take that pledge. I refuse to take any money from the insurance industry, from the 360,000 agents and brokers, the CEOs, the boards of directors of companies. My opponent is taking insurance money. I'm the only statewide elected official that's formally endorsed SB 562 single payer. The only one. There are other statewide electeds that give it lip service, but I filed a formal letter of support on the bill, and I do advocate for it routinely. And this goes to a question that was just asked a moment ago by Alex. Your insurance commissioner does not have the authority to regulate health insurance rates. We're one of the few states that doesn't have that authority. Many of you here joined with me 2 years ago to champion Prop 45 to give me that authority. The insurer spent $52 million against that ballot measure, lying up and down the state about it, and we lost. We need to move to single payer. We need to get the middle people out of this thing. And another important contrast is I oppose the death penalty, and as you hear, I have a very, very holistic vision of the Office of Attorney General. So I ask for your support. Swanee is passing out a little endorsement card. I would love to get your personal endorsement. Take a moment, fill it out. My sign fell, but that's Dave Jones, for Attorney General. And thank you, Democrats, and thanks for your activism. Thanks for all you're doing to resist, and resist we must. Look, if I was Attorney General, I wouldn't have waited for Minnesota to file the lawsuit against the first Muslim ban. I wouldn't have waited for Hawaii to file the lawsuit against the second Muslim ban. I wouldn't have waited for Maryland to file the emoluments lawsuit against Trump for taking proceeds from foreign potentates through his hotel. And I certainly would have not waited to file a lawsuit against Trump on DACA. We still haven't filed a lawsuit. 16 other attorneys general in this country filed a lawsuit earlier this week. California is not. So I know how to use the office. I'm experienced, I'm trained, I'm ready to hit the ground running, and I'd ask for your support. Thank you very much. Yes.
Mike.
Repeat the question.
Keep going, I hear it.
I feel there's some federal responsibility owed to us, the taxpayers and the citizens of this country, for this huge data protection that's affected half the population of our country. I think the federal government needs to step up and help us with this.
Agreed. So Linda's question is, the federal government bears some responsibility for data breaches, and they should step up. I know a little bit about this because you probably read a couple years ago, Anthem got breached. And the source of the breach was a Chinese military-inspired hacker collective outside of Beijing. But literally tens of millions of people's personal identification information was stolen. I opened an investigation with other insurance commissioners to ascertain whether Anthem had sufficient protections. They didn't. We've required them to up their game. But the fact of the matter is, as much as the private sector does what it can to try to protect itself, there are always going to be people that can get in, and we do need the federal government to help us out. And that's why, even though federal law enforcement said, Commissioner, we would prefer you not to publicize the fact that the Chinese government was behind this thing, I publicized it. I put it in our official report. Why? To try to bring some pressure to bear. I mean, admittedly, the federal government has a lot on its hand with China. There's this possible trade war that President Trump wants to start. There's the fact that China's building islands in the South Philippine Sea to set up, air platforms, potentially take over the Philippines. A lot of stuff going on, right? So they're not paying, frankly, as much attention as they should to this. It's on us in leadership positions to bring pressure to bear on them to pay attention to it. Absolutely. Yes, please.
Thank you, and a question. First, to thank you. About a dozen years ago, I got tossed off a jury pool for answering one of the questions with, well, I believe that the war on drugs has been a dismal failure. Lo and behold, the prosecution didn't want me in that jury. Though it was interesting, they asked, do any of the other prospective jurors share that view? Not a one. So I can't tell you how meaningful it is to me to hear somebody in your position say that. You touched on just a piece of it. I'd like to hear more. The war on drugs has been the modern prohibition. It has been a dismal failure by any rational measure. How do we roll it back faster and get smarter?
Well, it's a great, you heard the question, the war on drugs has been an abysmal failure. I agree, and we have done a series of things in California to roll it back, and I mentioned them. We've amended 3 strikes, we passed AB 109, which was the prison realignment bill, moving more people out of the prisons to the jails. We passed Prop 47, which reclassifies a bunch of non-serious, non-violent felonies as misdemeanors, so people are now going through that process. And then 58, which Jerry Brown aptly described as undoing the determinate sentencing laws he signed in the 70s when everyone thought the thing to do was to throw people away and throw away the key. So there's more that we can do in that area, but we also need to make sure we get right what we have done. And that's why I'm so focused on reentry and rehabilitation, because from a standpoint of community support for these sorts of things, if we start to see a significant uptick in property and violent crime as people come back to the community, then the pendulum's going to swing right back. So I believe very firmly, and that's why I want to make this a signature issue, that we really need to focus on rehab and rehabilitation programs, both in the correction settings and outside, to make sure that people are going to be successful and they don't reoffend. Now, the voters decided to legalize marijuana. What's your insurance commissioner doing about that? I'm trying to make sure that the cannabis industry has insurance. They're a legal industry shortly like anybody else. They need to have insurance, so I've sat down with the leadership of all of the major insurance companies to try to educate them about the cannabis industry. And I'm going to be I'm working with Fiona Ma, who's here, our state controller. I'm sorry, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. The woman who will be our state treasurer and is on our board of equalization, my endorsed candidate for state treasurer. I've been working with Fiona, and our state treasurer is going to be here in a little bit, John Chiang, on trying to get the cannabis industry banking. Why does that matter? Right now it's a cash industry, it's ripe for crime, and it's ripe for money laundering, and we need to figure out how to get them stabilized and get them into banking. Fiona has been a state leader in this regard. So those are some of my thoughts on that.
The main problem with single-payer insurance is in fact, it ends highly profitable business. And the profits from that highly profitable business are supporting quite a lot of political activism. And so the political, not candidates, but representatives that I asked the question of in an open meeting, Dems, because they didn't want to say,
I'm glad you clarified it wasn't me that didn't answer the question. A lot of people were really worried about that. Thank you.
no, but that, the biggest weakness in this measure is the fact that it will end skimming profits off of people's health needs. And doing so is in fact crippling and decaying the process of giving people medical care. Because they're squeezing them too, not just we have insurance, we pay for insurance, but they're also squeezing because in this country, the basis of our higher civilization is make more profit and use
So what you've described is both a policy problem and a political problem.
Can you repeat that?
Can you repeat it?
Her statement is that the biggest problem with single payer SB 562 is that there's an entire industry that's making profits out of the status quo, and that is going to be opposed to any kind of change. And that is a problem. We saw this just in 2 years ago now, Prop 45, my ballot measure to give the insurance commissioner the authority to regulate health insurance rates. They spent $52 million against that. We had raised like $1 million in potluck suppers, and and they rolled right over us. So it's not going to be easy. There's no question. But I look to every other industrialized nation where they have some form of this. They spend a fraction of their GNP on healthcare, and they have better outcomes. So, and I think there's enough of a groundswell around this that we can get there. And we can't be deterred by the fact that they've got so much money on the other side. But it is a challenge, no question. All right, I'm getting the hook. Oh, you're getting Alex's attention. Who would you like me to answer next? One more?
Who's up?
All right, right over here.
I just want to add to that, we need a mass movement to win this. We need people power to overcome the money power. We need pressure from below to sort of change the minds of these legislators who are hesitant, right? They're getting calls from the insurance companies, right? So we need to push from below and say, hey, if you want us to vote for you, support SB 562.
Great. People power. So if you go up on your favorite social media of choice, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, there are a series of organizing events that are occurring throughout this week that are being led by the campaign for SB 562 to develop that sort of coalition. So I'd encourage you to take a look, check it out, find one near you, and go.
We have a table here too.
Oh, that's even better. Why don't you say that? There's a table there. Just sign up right there. Good. Well, you've been a really wonderful audience. Usually when I talk about insurance, people's eyes roll in the back of their head. And, I want to ask you how many have auto insurance, right? You all do, right? Yeah. Good. But it's been a real privilege to get to serve you as insurance commissioner. I'm passionate about what I do. I would welcome your support for my candidacy for Attorney General. Please fill out the card. I'm going to hang around a little bit, enjoy some of this good wine and barbecue. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dave. talking about the barbecue. We're almost ready, but we're going to have a few more minutes. As it turns out, our barbecue chef forgot to bring the grills, so we scrambled this morning. So we're running a touch late. So, okay, great. I'm going to ask for one more person, since we had a segue, Fiona. Would you like to come up and tell everybody how important your job is?
Yes, thank you. It's great to follow Dave Jones. He actually made my job much easier because Dave and I have been working together for many years in the legislature, and I have to tell you, there is not a more hardworking, dogged legislator, public servant. When he believes something is wrong, he is going to go after them. And working with him in the legislature, sometimes I was the majority whip and the speaker pro tem, and I'd be like, Dave, why don't you compromise a little bit? You know, well, then we can get more, of our colleagues. And they'd be like, no, absolutely not. It's wrong. We got to go after them. I'm not taking any amendments. That's it. Take it or leave it. And you know what? He got a lot of important legislation passed because he is so strong in his belief about what is right and what is wrong, and he is going to continue that as our next Attorney General. So he said, oh, when people talk about insurance, their eyes roll back. Are you ready to talk about taxes? An even more important topic and more fascinating and exciting. But I will also segue, because I know when the food is ready, everyone's going to want to run. So I'm going to segue into one of the issues we've been working on is cannabis. And I did not know when I got elected to the Board of Equalization that all of the dispensaries around the state were supposed to be paying sales tax to the Board of Equalization. So I said, how much are we collecting? And my staff came back and said, we don't know. And I said, we've been around since 1879 collecting taxes, and you don't know how much this industry is paying? And they said, that's right. And as Dave mentioned, one of the big elephants in the room is that they don't have access to banking. And so how, as an auditor, can we audit cash? As you know, it's not easy to audit cash, because when you ask for a bank statement or a credit card statement, right? And they say we don't have anything, well, it's very hard. So we stand outside of the dispensary and just count how many people come in, and then average $65 per customer. Then we extrapolate back 3 years, add interest and penalties, and send them a bill, and we hope that they pay. That's how we are auditing this industry. Not very efficient. So we have been working, Dave and our state treasurer, John Chiang, has been leading the effort to create this banking stakeholder cannabis group of 15 people who represent different elected offices as well as different agencies to see what we can do here in California. Because we know that the federal government, Trump, Sessions, they are not going to help us. They want to go back to this war on drugs, like you're going to put the genie back in the bottle, right? We passed Prop 215 20 years ago. We just passed Prop 64 last year. Many states, 27 states have medicinal cannabis. 7 states have legalized. It is out of the bottle. It is a big industry. I would say it is the largest economic driver here in California, generating between $8 to $20 billion. They are not paying their fair share of taxes. Sometimes it's not to their fault. It's because a lot of us, professionals, CPAs, attorneys, we cannot legally help them. Because if we do and we take their money, we will be considered money launderers. So how are you supposed to help an industry comply and educate them and encourage them and help them file when professionals like us are not willing to help them? So we are hoping next year, as we legalize cannabis for recreational use and we get everybody licensed, that more people are going to be complying, they're going to be paying their taxes, they're going to be more money in the coffers. When we talk about single payer, I also have been a long-time supporter of single payer, and I don't want to hear that there's not enough money, right? There is going to be money. We are going to go after the cannabis industry. We are also working as a CPA, your tax collector, Amazon. How many of you order off of Amazon? Right? Do you ever look at your bill? Are you paying sales taxes to California? Sometimes not, right? if you are buying a product that is one of Amazon's third-party sellers, you're not paying sales taxes on it. If it is one of Amazon's products, you are only going to be paying the 7.25% of state taxes, but not the local portion. So I am working with Amazon and the governor's office to try to get them to collect the full amount of state and local taxes. And I think that's going to generate millions and billions of dollars also to fund things like single payer. So we, as your constitutional officers, are working hard to generate more revenues, make sure everybody's paying their fair share of our taxes, so that we can fund all the programs that we all care about. So Fiona Mom, your friendly tax collector. As you know, the Board of Equalization, we've been having some problems lately, which I have actually kicked off. I had to ask for 3 outside audits and ask the governor to take over our agency. He took over our 40 tax and fee programs, and he also created a new Office of Tax Appeals. So if you disagree with the Franchise Tax Board and your auditor, or this new California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, you can come before a 3-member ALJ panel starting January 1st, 2018. Now, I am looking for attorneys, because only attorneys can apply for these positions with some sort of tax experience. If we do not get people like you applying, then the only people they may hire are people who have been previously with the Franchise Tax Board or the Board of Equalization, and I believe they inherently have a bias against taxpayers. So when you come up before them, you may not get your fair shot, right? It's kind of like a jury pool. Right now, you have 5 elected officials who are not lawyers or accountants per se, but we're just there listening to your case, listening to facts and circumstances, and making a judgment call. So we are asking any attorneys with a tax experience, I will let you know when the application's open, but we need people like you who are sitting here today, who are just trying to, do the right thing. You want to hear these cases when they come up, and so I hope that we will get many of you to apply. So again, Fiona Mom, running for State Treasurer to be your banker. And just to tag team on Dave, experience is so important. Look what's happening at the federal level, right? No experience, we're a mess. I also served on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I was your majority whip and speaker pro tem in the state assembly. I am now your friendly tax collector, and I'm hoping to be your banker next year. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any quick questions?
I buy online. I don't do the work of keeping track of where I have paid taxes and where I have not. But with my annual return on my state taxes, I claim a percentage of my income, and so I'm paying a sales tax with that.
Right.
Is that shared at the state? Is that kept at the state level, or is it shared with counties?
That is actually a good question.
Can you repeat the question?
You're supposed to, if you're ordering from outside of the state and using the product here in California, you're supposed to pay a use tax, which is the same as if you're paying a sales tax and you buy something from a retail establishment. So on your California tax return on side 2, there is an option to say, did you buy under $1,000? If so, add X percentage. If you bought more, X percentage. So that is the rule. Not everyone does it, so I thank you for being a good taxpayer. But yes, that is supposed to be the rule. I think it only goes to the state. It does not go to the local. So, but I'm going to check that now that you asked me. But it's going to be too hard for the Franchise Tax Board to allocate that amount to the local, so it just probably just goes into the state general fund.
Anyone else?
Would you support a state bank like being proposed so that the cannabis dispensaries can have something to do with public safety?
Yes. So now that Dave is here,
Repeat the question.
I'm going to ask Dave.
Question.
Do I support a state bank? Honestly, I would love to see a California state bank. I think California, as the 6th largest economy, It would be amazing to have the dispensaries and also the people who are underbanked, who don't have a good credit rating, right? Who can't get a credit card, who aren't able to transact, through money, transfers. So I would love to see a state bank. Now, in order to have a state bank, it would have to be created legislatively. And that means someone would have to carry legislation, and the legislation would have to go through both houses through the banking committee. And Dave Jones knows that the banks and the credit unions do not want the state of California to get into the banking business, right? Can you imagine if everyone said, hey, we're not going to go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America or your local credit, we're going to use the Bank of California. It would be amazing. It'd be amazing, right? We could have like little or no fees. We could actually give out loans to people. We can, help students with their debt. I mean, there's so much we can do. But I see that it is going to be a high hurdle. I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to work with the existing banks, trying to get them to know their customers, do the due diligence for them. I think that's where we're going to go as a state, and we hope that with Trump being impeached or the next president, that we will have access to banking.
So the only thing about tax collecting that's perhaps better than tax collecting is tax relief. So I'm going to segue that to food relief. They're ready. I notice food always tastes better when you're hungry, and I notice a lot of wet shirts. There's some drooling going on. So I'm going to ask it. Just start here. Let's make it simple. Go down this side, come around, and come back the other side. It's waiting. That's where you start.
And don't forget, we do have raffle tickets still on sale over here on the table with all the goodies. Be sure after you eat or before you eat or sometime, go and take a look and buy some raffle tickets and help support the club, and I believe it supports our scholarship, Chaplain students.
I am not the Institute Director.
So while you're continuing to enjoy your food, it's my great pleasure to present a part of the program that it's a delight to do. I think, first of all, I want to thank Fiona and Dave. Thank you again for coming out and being with us today. I think that you know that they're running for statewide office, and there's millions and millions of voters throughout California, and there's a good reason why they would be sure to be here with you today, with all of us today, and that is that they know that we're all activists in the community, we're all Democratic activists, and in addition to casting our own votes, we influence a lot of people by telling them who we're voting for. If you're in a resistance group in the Democratic Party, the Democratic Club, the city council member, people know your involvement in the community. They come to you and they ask you who you're voting for Attorney General, who you're voting for Treasurer. And it's a reflection of the work that we all do together. Our reach extends far beyond the group that's here today, of course. And it's my pleasure to help the club in recognizing two members with awards. And a member of the club leadership has gone through the trouble of writing very nice observations about the involvement of these members in the community. And while you eat and while you enjoy your food, I ask just to listen to them and bear with me, because I'm going to read the comments in recognition of these members of the club. And I think it's important for all of our clubs and all of our activities to recognize members who contribute for their contributions over the years, in part because it's inspired for all of us, and also so that we know, because sometimes people have done things that we don't even know, right? You meet somebody in the club, you don't realize what a warrior they've been. So, should I go right into it, Susan? Okay, so the first award is and I have to say this with apologies, Susan, everybody who knows Susan knows that she doesn't mince words, and so the first award is the Kick-Ass Award.
Who's got it?
And that's the Volunteer of the Year for the South County Democratic Club. And the theme of this one, I'm going to read some details about her involvement. The theme is smart growth and protection of open spaces and the environment. And is Connie Rogers in the room? Connie. First, let us know who you are. Let me just answer. This Connie Rogers. Just wait and say who you are. Okay. Susan, we would like you to come up and stand here while I read these fabulous words. So welcome our volunteer of the year, Connie Rogers. So I'm going to read some words that members of the club who know you personally very well wrote about you. Connie has been active in Gilroy City government since the early 1980s. First as a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and then as a planning commissioner, appointed by her friend, then Mayor Roberta Hewitt. When she was not reappointed due to her environmental activity, there's like pregnant pauses in here. There's some troublemaking apparently. She was not reappointed. It made her mad enough to run for city council. In 1993, she beat a John Birch Society member, Sarah Nelson, who was spending only half the money of that opposing candidate. While in office, she worked with LAFCO and saw an agreement called Strategies to Balance Plant Growth and Agricultural Viability, approved by the City Council, the Board of Supervisors, and LAFCO. Another achievement was convincing her fellow council members to fund the restoration of the historic Gilroy train station as a multimodal transportation hub. When running for re-election in 1997, Connie was targeted by a right-wing group called Kids, Keep the Internet Decent and Safe, for her stand against filters on the library computers. The Gilroy Dispatch gave them a platform and she was not re-elected. She found that defeat gave her more freedom to speak out for the environmental and slow growth causes she believed in, and now she knew the ropes of how to do city and local government. Environmental causes have been the core of Connie's efforts. With several friends, she was a founding member of Citizens for Balanced Growth in 1992. This slow growth group morphed into SOS Gilroy, Save Open Space Gilroy. Despite their protests, the city designated the 660 acres of prime agricultural land east of the outlets in the 2002 general plan as a potential industrial campus. However, with the help of environmental attorneys, SOS was successful in getting the requirement of an agricultural mitigation policy included in the general plan. In 2007, SOS fought off a proposal to build the Westfield Mall on the same 660 acres. Due to this pressure and also the downturn of the economy, Westfield withdrew their proposal. The next year, SOS helped form a loose-knit environmental collaborative of environmental groups serving South Santa Clara County and San Benito County. Although that network fell apart without a specific project to work on, the awareness created was followed up with a successful initiative by San Benito County residents to ban fracking in 2014. We have to start recognizing volunteers who've done a little bit less. I have just a few more words, and as I said, I want to share them because they're written with love and appreciation. All this experience and watching city planning policies culminated in the formation of a coalition to create Gilroy Growing Smarter in 2016. Many citizens, are they here? Gilroy Growing Smarter? In the house? Excellent. Many citizens were offended by the application to admit 721 acres to Gilroy's urban service area in the middle of Gilroy's general plan process, the termination of 4 council members to proceed in defiance of the public's wishes. In emergency meetings during the Christmas holiday season, the coalition decided that an initiative to prevent such a blatant and indefensible land grab was the only way to attain a semi-permanent solution. With the help of many friends and coalition members, and also the support of our South County Democratic Club, the Committee for Green Foothills, and the Greenbelt Alliance, Gilroy Growing Smarter won a resounding 66% of the vote in November 2016. Today, Gilroy Growing Smarter continues as a watchdog group lobbying for agricultural preservation and fighting sprawl. Thank you very much, Connie Rogers, volunteer of the year for the South County Democratic Club. You'll have to show the placard, it's so beautiful. So once more for Connie Rogers. Thank you. Okay. Rebecca Armendariz. Am I pronouncing your name right? Rebecca, come forward. Rebecca is being honored as the South County Democratic Club's
Democrat of the Year. And whereas the theme of Connie's experience and write-up was, I think, smart growth and preservation, for Rebecca, it seems to be all about organizing and bringing people together for the better of the community and communities of color, working people as well. So Rebecca was raised on the picket line, her parents carting her from meeting to meeting from a very young age. She began organizing in high school to fight the zero tolerance and push out focused policies that were affecting her friends and fellow classmates. After a couple of walkouts, Rebecca experienced her first political arrest at the age of 18. So I didn't know that. If you've been arrested, you've been cuffed and carried away in the furtherance of the cause, you've done a lot. She was ordered to 200 hours of community service at MACSA, Mexican American Community Services Agency, where she was later hired and worked for 6 years. So she got a job out of the deal. That's good. She worked helping youth find employment and complete their education. She then successfully led the effort to organize her workplace to have union representation. After winning their first contract, she was then recruited to work for the union, SEIU, and has been with the organization for 11 years. In Gilroy, Rebecca co-founded Voz de la Gente, which develops leadership and civic engagement in the Latino community. She's a founding board member of Claras, the community agency for resources, advocacy, and service, providing much-needed service, advocacy, and cultural pride events for the community during the very popular Tamal Festival and Cesar Chavez celebration. Currently, Rebecca is a senior community political organizer for SEIU USWW, representing thousands of Silicon Valley janitorial and security workers. She serves as vice chair of the City of Gilroy Planning Commission, representing the Commission on the Housing Advisory Council. In 2016, she served as the co-chair of the very successful Measure H campaign for an urban growth boundary in Gilroy, and was a founding member of the Gilroy Growing Smarter, a committee dedicated to preserving open space and farmland. Rebecca has been a member of the South County Democratic Club since 2010, and she currently chairs the Endorsements Committee. She is a delegate to the Democratic Party for Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, helped Zoe Lofgren organize her most recent town hall in Morgan Hill, which was attended by over 300 people. She is also a mentor for the Southwest Keys Mentorship Program, working with gang-impacted youth. Most recently, she has helped lead the resistance against Trump's anti-immigrant, sexist, and racist policies through South County Resistance, organizing rallies and protests at the Morgan Hill ICE office and others. Rebecca helped launch the County Rapid Response Network and volunteers as a dispatcher for South County on the hotline, fielding reports of ICE activity and assisting callers with legal resources. So if that wasn't enough, she's also the wife to Ruben. Is Ruben here? This is the wife to Ruben, and has 3 daughters and 2 sons, whom she now carts around from meeting to meeting, just like her parents used to do to her. Are they here? So it's sons and daughters. So the big shot, Rebecca is our Democrat of the Year. Congratulations. Lovely. Congratulations, Rebecca, and congratulations, Connie. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
And I'll turn it back to Alex.
So, how about that? And, you know, as
Closer.
up again until 2020 as your director, the South County Director of the Open Space Authority, I want to thank especially Connie and Rebecca for being my eyes and ears on things regarding Gilroy. It makes my job easier in all of my districts, which includes all of South County. So thank you both again very much.
Thank you, Alex.
I would like to take a minute to thank Bob. You want to line up your chefs?
Hey, let's see how you go up there, please.
I was about to thank you for the great food. Look at that. So much. I appreciate it. So, in an ongoing effort to get us out of here before midnight, I would like to... is John here yet?
Yes.
There he is. Our second speaker. He's running for governor. come on up.
John's currently, if you walk right by me, I can recognize him.
He's currently state controller. Treasurer, I'm sorry. It's all about the money. And you're from Southern California, is that right? From Torrance. So as a Southern California, probably a Dodger fan.
Yankees fan.
Yes.
Born in New York. Born in New York.
Born in New York, grew up in Chicago, I hear.
So I'll tell a little story when I speak.
Yes, there's another, and my wife is also, you know, when the Cubs won the World Series this last year, it got really silent in our house. I grew up a Giants fan, and it's been interesting. We have another Yankees hat, so I wouldn't dare ask you if you'd support one of our California teams.
Oh, I love it. I always root.
Sure you do.
The kids can't root against them.
What you're supposed to say. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon. I am so excited to be with you. Thank you very much to the South County Democrats. Thank you for what you're doing today, specifically to empower the opportunities for the next generation of Californians. Thank you for your incredible work. We have to come together to set a powerful signal back to Washington, D.C. about who we are and what our values are. I'm so excited to be with my colleagues, Dave Jones and Fiona Ma. Give you a little story about who I am. I'm John Chiang. I'm your state treasurer. For those of you who don't know, thank you. For those of you who don't know what I do, on a daily basis, I invest our money. I'm the state's banker, so I invest, or my staff, $65 to $85 billion Monday through Friday. I'm the agent of sale for the state's debt. So when we sell bonds for schools or bridges or roadways, the UC system, for other things, that comes through my office, most of it. And then I chair about a dozen economic development authorities. So I help finance things from taco trucks to children's hospitals, to healthcare clinics, to companies like Tesla, to aerospace companies. I try to clean the next generation of jobs in California. And then I sit on CalPERS and CalSTRS. And so my background and approach to all of this is, as introduced, or when I mentioned, born in New York, grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago. I was about to check it, but then I got my name called up. Dave Jones and I went to high school together. So Dave and I have been friends since our freshman year in high school. Why I always love Dave, and let me give a strong testament and tribute to Dave's character. My family, well, I was born in 1962, so Dave and I are 55, he's older. And America back then looked very different than it did today. So in 1960, America was 0.6% Asian. And my family was the first Asian family in our community in suburban Chicago. And we faced a lot of discrimination, right? As people do today, as they did back in that generation. So we would have spray painted on our garage. We would have spray painted on our garage, go home, and it would say Jap or Chink or Goop. And we would have rocks break our windows. We would have our mailboxes blown up. What was really instructive at that time was my mom. Right, my mom, is deeply Catholic. She used to go to church every day. She has health issues today, but she would pray for all of us. Right, that's what kind of heart and spirit my mom has. Like, she believed in the greater good, and she believed at the end of the day there were more good people than bad people. And over a period of time, she transformed a lot of people who were ignorant or skeptical or hostile. And so when she left to move to California, she left a few hundred friends behind. Right? That's sort of the battles that we have today. Right? It's like opening up people's hearts and minds. And frankly, we're it when we challenge President Trump and others who use inflammatory, discriminatory, hateful language. We are the hope and inspiration
that others who have lost hope and inspiration need. And I always talk about how so proud I am of this incredible state, and why I mentioned Dave, right? Because as I was going through a lot of that discrimination, right, Dave was so supportive, right? Dave, even though he's there next to me, goes, I can't imagine the discrimination that you and your family are facing, right? And that's why Dave in all his work is absolutely tenacious about making sure that we uphold the dignity, decency, respect for every single individual. And that's what I try to do. Now, my parents didn't come with a lot to this country. They came separately. My dad, 3 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, less than $100 in his pocket. English was his fifth language, but you don't need everything, right? Why we're here together, why we're Democrats, is you want to take people from, regardless of circumstances, and Fiona's working it in the financial arena, whether you start at the top 1% or you start at the bottom 1%. America, if we have great leadership and all of us coming together and you financing, giving community college students access to education, that's what this is all about, an opportunity to climb the economic and social ladder, right? Because we're supposed to present our kids and grandkids. I'm not blessed with my own biological children, but I got 6 godchildren who I view as my kids, right, among many other kids, right? They're Latina, they're biracial, they're Asian. I want to make sure they get opportunities better than the ones that my parents had when they sacrificed to give their 4 children. So I am the only person in California history, and Fiona's going to follow me, that have served in all 3 financial offices at the state. Board of Equalization, the tax authority. Now, I used to get booed when people knew I used to work for the Internal Revenue Service. But the people in this room, we know, right, you need good taxes, fair taxes, to pay for education. You have to pay for education, right? Every child should get a world-class education. You have to make sure that everybody has access to health care that's quality, that's accessible, that doesn't drive California and American families into bankruptcy. You have to make sure that we provide a roof over people's heads. And we have to do much more. Then later, I was your controller, the state's chief fiscal officer. I was the Democrat who took on Governor Schwarzenegger when so many people were afraid of taking on an international star. Right, so when he passed a budget that was out of balance, right, and I'm not trying to attack Governor Schwarzenegger, and he got the math wrong, a Democrat had to stand up for California's values. Right, and so Dave and I were in debate together, we were in student council together, but Dave chose not to be a mathlete. I chose to be a mathlete, right? So I want to do my 4th grade and my sophomore year teacher proud with the math that I did in the controller's office. Right, so when we were talking about not paying education, not paying health care, not paying for infrastructure, a Democrat had to stand up, and I did. Right, and today we're back on the right path. Right, our economy was tanking, more people were going into poverty. We helped stop financing housing for individuals. That had to stop. And today, as your treasurer, I'm your banker. Right, and so we need to take on the big Wall Street banks. They took it to us in 2009, and frankly, as many people were concerned, and rightfully so, a lot of Democrats and others are afraid to take on Wall Street. I'm not afraid to take on Wall Street. Right, when you read it today, I'm the one taking on Wells Fargo. I'm the one taking on Wells Fargo. Right, because you can't open illegal accounts without authorization, start charging fees, right? And you're seeing it happen to women, people of color, others who can't defend themselves, right? When you elect me to be your banker, I'm the banker who has your back, not those other banks. And so when I get to the governor's office, I want all of us to understand that we're going to restore the big dream for each and every single one of us, right? Many of you are following. I'm the Democrat working with the Speaker to take the lead to try to make sure we build more housing for people in the state of California. we are driving too many Californians into poverty because they can't put a roof over their head. 1 in every 3 of us who rent pays over 50% of our income on housing. We'll never break out of that entrenched cycle of poverty unless we change housing. We need to make sure that we work with Susan and others who are making sure that everybody gets high-quality education into every single community, right? They understand, especially in the Silicon Valley, even in people amongst the same communities, the performance for Latinos and African Americans aren't as high as Caucasians. That is a model for economic failure in this state. So I want to make sure that the state of California doesn't break our promises we have in the past, that we fully pay education. During the last financial crisis, we held back $10 billion in deferrals for education because we didn't get our math right. And then I'm going to continue to lead the battle against President Trump's policies when he takes it to Californians. We've been taking it on the chin. 1 in every 7 Californians gets their health care from a community clinic. We have had 4 community clinics shut down since this new administration has been in place. And you look at predominantly, again, some of the same demographics. Women and people of color who've lost access to their health care. So instead of just talking about challenging President Trump, I'm putting up the ideas and the action to take on President Trump. One of the things I did with one of the healthcare authorities that I chair is we set aside money. I went to the legislature, the governor signed the bill. We're providing seed money to try to keep these community health clinics afloat, because you don't want the people who are in greatest need losing access to health care. So this is our hope. But most importantly, all of us should be inspired because we have each other, right? We are California. And what makes us separate is not only do we resist, but we lead. And you lead by being here, you lead by your action, and when we come next year, 2018, we're going to send again once a powerful signal that California is the state of hope, of inclusion, of inspiration, and one that will lead United States of America to a better land and demonstrate to those who lost hope and are with President Trump, there is an alternative, and it's a much stronger alternative. So the South County Democrats, thank you very much for this incredible opportunity. Please join me on this campaign. Let's send a powerful signal that all of us together can stop.
Thank you very much. I've got a couple of questions.
Are you going to take questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're elected governor, are you going to continue to support a project that's approaching $100 billion by the time it's done, that will only decrease carbon emissions by 1% in California? How can you justify high-speed rail in this community?
So I like high-speed rail.
I do too.
So I like high-speed rail, but here.
I heard that, Suzanne.
But I want part of this is the finance. I want high-speed rail paid by private sector, right? Well, part of this, we need to find different types of alternatives, right? Because we can't keep having people stuck on highways.
But high-speed rail down this valley will not take a single car off of 101, and we're going to pay a heavy price and losing our housing equities, our businesses, a beautiful downtown in Morgan Hill. It's so wrong to force this thing on a community that has fought so long for their voice, and we're not going to get a damn thing out of it, not one car off this street.
I hear you right there. So as we have these conversations and proceed, I'm willing to look at it to make sure that we're sensitive to all the concerns. But I think we need alternative structures, right? Because if we do the equivalent, right, we're just going to build more roadways and other things that are going to be more expensive. We're just going to have more people stuck on the road. So I'm willing to have, and I will encourage the conversation so that we get local neighborhood input to make sure all of this works. You bet.
I want to follow up on the way they have it scheduled right now, the two options that they have go right to the east side. You know, if they go by the freeway, they're going to take down the only park that we have in the east side is the Venezuela Park. They're going to take down the Philly apartment, the only, well, there's two low-income apartments, that's Philly apartment. The next one is Rogers Lane. You know, they're going to take down all the low-income housing that's on Adams, on Barville, on Willie, all of it, you go straight down 101. And if you go through town, you're going to take, because everything is being put on the east side. You know, nobody cares about, you know, low-income people. They say, because I've gone to every meeting, so this started 4 years ago, and they said they can't use their Southern Pacific, whoever owns the thing, they have to put it 9 feet over. Well, we have apartments that just got built there, you know, on 10th Street, there, I think 5 or 6 stories high, and it was, when I spoke to state about it, they told me, well, we're not going to, because if you look at the line, we're going to go right through them. Yeah, and I said, why are you putting it through that? You know, those are, the city of Cellars just approved those apartments. And they go, oh, we're not going to take the apartment, we're just going to take the carports that are attached to the apartment. What quality of life is that giving those people? And they're going to do away with railroad street. Yeah. Railroad street is where all the old-time businesses are at, you know? Why do you want to destroy our town? Put it out there on New Avenue, far away from us. Put it on the Chico Pass. You know, it's ridiculous.
I appreciate your point. I think it's all valuable. I will raise your points as we have these conversations going forward. Just so background, I am really sensitive about affordable housing. I'm leading that charge. Actually, Dave was a neighborhood legal services attorney, also focusing on housing when he graduated after Harvard, right? So I'm leading the charge on affordable housing, trying to make sure that those units are preserved, making sure that we have economic and social justice, especially for low-income communities. One of the things, as mentioned, I'm from Southern California, but early on, before I was in politics, I was part of the ethnic coalition. It was Latinos, African Americans, and Asians coming together on economic and social justice issues. So I will especially make sure that we delve into.
They put it on Monterey down where the city jail went all the way to the 101. I can assure you that over 90% of them are less.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. We'll be. Yeah, I'll definitely make sure we're sensitive to that. So.
A question?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Adina Hogue, and I'm a public education advocate. Have been all my life.
If I could ask something, if you could also tell me your dream. I didn't ask the first two, but usually I ask people for their name and their dream.
Well, actually, here's my dream. If I can leave with the question, I'll get to the dream, I promise. So, as a former public school teacher and a current public education advocate, my dream is that California go from being the bottom 5 for funding public education, as far as so back to the top 5. I don't think we should rely on parcel taxes and bond taxes. I think the state needs to fund it, which leads me to my question. How do you feel about Prop 13, and will you do anything to revise it and fix it?
Yeah, so
Repeat the question?
The question is, she's an advocate for public education. She's a huge advocate for public education, right? She doesn't want where California's fallen to, right? We were at 46, now arguably 42nd after the passage of Prop 30, and then Prop 55. Yeah, right. And then, right, well, that's within the range. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just giving the range. Right? And then, how do I feel about Prop 13, about other things, right? We certainly have to look at it. We had one of the things I've been advocating in the past is that, because I sat on the Board of Equalization, so I would see the maneuvers to avoid the change in, when you had change in property ownership, right? What triggers a change in Prop 13 or change in ownership, which triggers a reassessment, is transfer of ownership of property, right? And so you have those famous cases like the Dell case with the Santa Monica hotel property, and so they'll transfer like 20%, then 17%, those right in it.
Oh, I get it. I'm
Yeah.
from California
So yes,
too.
the
My question is, would you be open to an amendment as a governor?
Yeah.
Would you sign off on an amended version of it, which protects homeowners but not corporations?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the point I'm getting to, right? You've got to go after and make sure that we stop those types of step transactions in the futures going forward. Yes.
I can't endorse it because of my job.
Yeah, send me the email.
Thank you. Well done, thank you.
Hey, one more.
Right here.
One more.
It's not about high-speed rail, I promise. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for supporting home care workers when the governor attacked them and tried to cut their wages to minimum wage. I want to thank you for being so courageous in doing that. And then I want to ask, do you support SB 54, the Sanctuary State Bill, without the amendments of the Sheriff's Association?
So so not only the home care workers, I'm the one who brought direct deposit for the home care
Yes,
workers,
we
right?
appreciate that very
And all that stuff. And so for the sanctuary cities, I don't know what the final iteration is, right? But yes, we need to make sure that we protect those who have acted properly and done correctly, right? They're trying to get to the proper balance. So, but I like where we are, right? So I want to make sure that we protect those individuals who have done the right thing in this state. So whether it's 54 to DACA, we want to make sure that this state welcomes our diversity, that we have secure communities, and that we don't have what President Trump is trying to drive to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. So, in a concerted effort to keep us out of here and get us out of here before midnight, I'm going to talk about dignitaries and introduce our dignitaries, but I'm going to do it en masse to speed things up. Would the official people from Morgan Hill please stand up and recognize we have at least three. Where's Richard? He left. Steve, Renee, you want to say anything? Quickly as it were.
Very quickly, just wanted to thank you to come to beautiful Morgan Hill. It's the first time we've done this event in Morgan Hill, so at least we didn't have to drive down to Gilroy and you can enjoy the beauty of our town. Thank you for coming.
Just one yet. Steve? Anything?
I'm not running.
You don't have to run, but you ran, and you're getting blamed for it all, so this is your shot. Gilroy, Peter.
Dan Harney, my colleague, also in the City Council. I don't see him. That's right. Real briefly, I'm Peter LaRome, Munoz council member in the city of Gilroy, your neighbor to the south. I'm also a candidate for Assembly District 30, which includes Morgan Hill, right where we stand, going all the way down 101 to King City and picking up San Benito County as well. And so I just want to thank you all for being here today. You know, I've actually been to every single one of the barbecues that we've had in the last 6 or 7 years. I remember the first one we had. And this has been a very special group. This is one of the first groups that I joined when I moved to this area to work as a deputy district attorney. And I'm always very impressed by the passion that people bring for the democratic ideals, but especially now, more so than ever, recognizing the dignity and humanity of all of our people and all of our community. And that was never more present than a couple weeks ago when we had that peace march in Morgan Hill. And I recall seeing the participants and also passersby who were really thirsting for that kind of reaction, that kind of support. So thank you so much for the entire group, and I look forward to seeing you more on the campaign trail. Thank you again.
What are you running for?
Thank you, Peter.
Assembly District 30.
So anybody here from Morgan Hills suburb to the north, San Jose? No? Imagine.
Over here, there's somebody.
Who? Well, okay, so much for that. Let's start with the county. We have a potential sheriff with us, John Hirakawa.
Good afternoon. Thanks for hearing me and inviting me from the South County Dem Club. John Hirakawa, candidate for Santa Clara County Sheriff. The election was in June of 2018. I've been a loyal Democrat. I am a loyal Democrat, and I believe in the priorities and the messaging and values of this party. And I'm hoping to get your vote.
Put the mic closer.
I'm a loyal Democrat.
Thank you. The best part,
But
need to hear it too.
I'm not only a loyal Democrat, I believe in the values and the messaging of this party. And so I will bring that. There are very few Democrat sheriffs, 58 counties in the state, very few who are Democrats. And I promise to bring that messaging to that 58 Sheriffs Association. Thank you.
Is there a question for John? No? From...
Alex, I have a statement question.
We're not there yet.
Okay, I just want to do my...
I haven't forgotten.
Alex. I have a question for you.
Hello, John. I knew you had
Question.
at least one. By the way, John, you need to tell us not only why you're qualified to be sheriff.
Well, I thought you guys wanted to leave before midnight. 38 years with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. The difference between myself and some of my opponents would be that I went through every single level through the organization, at every single supervisor, manager, important part, mentor, trainer, and I showed that leadership. And I believe the rank and file believe in me and my ethical, honest way of how I conduct myself every day. And that's what needs to happen. When that top spot, when they believe in that person, what they're saying, when they believe in that then creates cultural change. When they don't believe in that top person, it doesn't resonate. You don't have change, especially in the culture. So I have 38 years, but there was a question.
Yes. So since you're talking about police culture, I've had the liberty of living in many cities, both on the East Coast and West Coast, and I've seen what a difference a chief of police and a sheriff can make on their departments. I'm 45, and the Black Lives Matter movement have both brought a very acute awareness about policing in our country, and about community policing in particular. What do you envision in changing the culture of the sheriff's office? What does that mean to you?
What it means to me. So how long ago did Ferguson happen? When Black Lives Matter first came...
13?
It's been about 3.5, 4 years.
Yes, easily.
It's been going on for a long time though.
Yes, and I've been part of that leadership, some of that, because I rose through those ranks. But one of my philosophies when I became a lieutenant in 2001, I believed in independent oversight of that office. And when you have to really define also independent oversight. That means an independent source who does that evaluation outside of the sheriff's office that makes those critical decisions on how to make recommendations for policy changes. So it's interesting you bring this up because Supervisor Joe Simidian just on Thursday rolled out a press release and a recommendation for a charter change to bring true independent oversight of the entire sheriff's office, not just the jail, but also the enforcement branch of the sheriff's office. So he comes up with that.
Do you support that?
Well, that use of force would be reviewed by that oversight committee, or independent oversight. So, he rolls that out on Thursday. I believe the Mercury News is writing an article, and it's already online. And I'm not trying to sell papers for the Mercury News, but if you go online, you'll see a huge contrast between the current sheriff's comment about Joe Simidian's plan for oversight and my comment. I'm in favor for independent oversight. The current sheriff has morphed her message. No oversight. If there is oversight, it comes up, they report to me, and then I deliver that message. I believe it has to be independent. And I've been consistent with that over the years. And so that's where Joe Simidian's plan or the board's plan may go. And I'm full in support of that. And so with that, I've been going to, before I retired last year, I went to a lot of squad meetings for both the jail and enforcement, trying to deliver the message that do not fear oversight of the sheriff's office. Because here's the thing, it will make your job a lot easier. Because when you lose the public trust about the work that you're doing, then your job becomes a lot more difficult. When you have true independent oversight of an office, that also instills trust that that independent oversight will evaluate whatever situation may come up and come up with an evaluation that the public or the community can trust. But when internal is where the deception or the mistrust comes. And for me, it's best for them if this happens. But you could see you would have to see the current sheriff comment. And for me, it's my opinion, but I'm biased. Okay, it's a lot. It's very worrying. So that's my message. Thank you very much.
Anything else for our next sheriff? I'm going to take a second here, and Bob, who is our BBQ, this is our 6th year, and the first year here in Morgan Hill. Looks like one of at least 2 in Morgan Hill, and we signed up for the next year, as you know. But I want him to introduce his crew and how he puts it together.
That's not fair. Say really quick. I'm gonna say 20 minutes longer now. No, our crew's been together for 6 years now. It's our 6th barbecue. We have the Latino caucus from SEIU that helps us out, as well as the our Coke committee. So, introduce yourself.
Latino Caucus, Nacho.
Rachel Sabega, I'm chair of Latino Caucus and also co-chair of Retiree Group.
Connie Jimenez, retiree, committee member, and Latino Caucus. Geraldine Ortega.
I'm Raquel Welch, and I'm chair of our code for SEIU. Thank you.
Tom Welch, honorary member.
Karen Nakatani, member of SEIU, Apollo Caucus, Latino Caucus, Coke Committee, Retiree Chapter, all of the above.
Thank you very much. All the other folks stand up. Our Democratic Party folks.
Raise your hand, wave your arm so we know who you are. Let's see the Republicans put a team like that together. Robert Rios, are you still here, Bob? Yeah, got too much to eat. That's so much for supervisor in San Bernardino County. Walt Glines, trustee, Gavilan College.
He was here.
Wake him up. I know he's here. He was actually part of the cooking team. That's fine. That's the best speech ever. Wes White.
No.
No.
Yeah, I'll say something, sure.
Real quick. You got the hat. Is it all hat or?
There's a little bit of green. Hi, I'm Wes White. I'm from Salinas. I'm actually part of the Salinas Homeless Union. It's Progressive Democrats of Monterey County.
Can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Okay, my name is Wes White. I'm from Salinas, Monterey County, part of the Monterey County Dems, Progressive Dems. We're starting the Salinas Homeless Union. We've been dealing a lot with that, and we're just involved in the struggle, a lot of different struggles. I do a YouTube channel. I'm videoing this right now. The whole Monterey Bay region is kind of our purview of what we're trying to support. Any and all, anything that's helpful and positive, civic engagement, social, environmental justice. We were big on Measure Z and Measure J before that. Yeah, we've been going strong, so I love it.
That's what activism is all about. Gavilan College trustee, young lady, who's she?
Rachel.
Rachel, come on. You want to say anything or just your arms? Okay, whatever you want to do.
I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
Say 2 things, Rachel.
I just want you to know that there's a lot of exciting things happening at the community colleges, all 114 of them across the state. One thing that is on the horizon is a activity called College Promise, and they're looking for things like tuition-free books for students and other kinds of things that will support student access and student success. And so they have everyone has an opportunity to hopefully, get into higher education. That's just one thing. So anyway, that's all I have, right? Thank you.
Remember, we still have the raffle going. Juana, you're up.
That's okay. I'll
Okay.
extend my time.
Anyone else before Susan does the raffle. And also I want to thank everybody for being here. I know it's a lot of speeches, but you know what? We have to keep each other informed. And that's why you guys have the opportunity to step up and say so. So thank you very much. See you next year on the 9th. And if you got a raffle ticket, now's the time to get it.